Hi everybody, welcome to the Stellium Astrology podcast. I'm Stephanie James, your host, the founder of stelliumastrology.com and this podcast. I'm an occasional tutor at the London School of Astrology. Can't say that at the moment. And I'm also I used to be the horoscope columnist for Elle magazine. And today I'm doing a bit of a weird thing and I'm recording the podcast in my car, in a car park, because I'm just waiting to go to Pets at Home to buy Lana and Archer some food because they don't stock their food at the moment in Sainsbury's or anywhere really. So we've been feeding them on this other stuff. They like gourmet. They're really fussy, both of them, really fussy cats. And they only like the fish selection from gourmet. But every now and again you can give them a different packet of cat food and they'll eat it. Like some other flavour or whatever. But it doesn't last for long, but they seem to just really love the gourmet stuff. So I thought I'd just steal a moment out of my day. Ewan's asleep in the back and I'm wondering what I'm going to be able to get away with. So I'm just recording this episode. You may be aware that I have started recording episodes on my phone because it is just literally, now I'm a mum and while I'm looking after Bubs on the go, I have to take these moments where I find them. I've probably parked in a relatively noisy spot actually, with lots of cars going past me, but there's not really a great deal I can do about that. We'll see what happens. We'll see how we go. So anyway, today's episode, before we get into the throes of it all, I just wanted to remind you guys that I have a Patreon page, and I have now 3 tiers on my Patreon page. Tier 1, the bottom tier, the cheap one, it's like £1 or $1 wherever you are in the world. You now have access to a astrology highlights video for each month, and if I can do anything extra on top of that, I will do it, like a little tarot reading or whatever. Eventually in time I should have more time to do these things, but at the moment you're getting an astrology highlights video. I just uploaded one literally a few days ago for the 1st of Feb, and that is like my kind of what I think looks interesting for the month, summed up. And then there's the second tier up from that is you get new moon video each month on top of the astrology highlights, plus the part 2s of interviews, and I think there is some bonus content as well open to the second tier. So tier 1 is buds, tier 2 is BFFs, and then my VIPs, which is the top tier, get all of the previous content plus a full moon video, any kind of Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, Jupiter going into Pisces, for example, that recently came out. Loads of stuff like that. Any additional videos I feel like making if I'm just in the mood for getting on and talking about astrology or anything in general, that's all kind of, that goes into the VIP. So there's a good amount of content, and I feel it's fairly priced. If you don't agree with me, please let me know. But definitely check out the Patreon page. There's also, even if you don't want to sign up to Patreon, there are public posts on there as well, including there's some downloads that you can have as well, so like a aspects guide, and I'm not sure if I did my new moon wish list or not. I can't remember if that's like free or not, but anyway, just go on there and have a look and see what you can find. But yeah, there's lots of bits and bobs on there for you guys, and whenever I get a chance, I love making stuff. I particularly like making downloads, like little things you can download and print, but that is really time consuming and I don't often get a chance to do that. But when I do, I'll let you guys know. So that was the first thing I wanted to let you know. And oh yes, the other thing I wanted to let you know is Spotify have decided now finally to let people not review but rate the podcast. So basically, if you go onto my podcast page on Spotify, and I know there's loads of you listening on Spotify, so please, if you've got your phone in your pocket, if you've got your phone in your hand, just go on to when it's playing my podcast, press it so that it pops up onto my page, and just below the image of the episode there should be 3 little buttons, like 3 little dots, like one of those like menu button things to click more, and it will have some options. One of them is rate podcast, and then you can just go in and rate the podcast, and after a little while it should get enough ratings that it can recommend my podcast to other people. It would mean the world to me if you guys could do that. I would absolutely love it. Don't forget, I've done free stuff for you guys on Patreon, so you can pay me back by giving me a nice rating on Spotify. Plus, all of this lovely free astrological content that I'm giving with you guys, I'm sharing with you guys. I do it out of love, actually, and because astrology rocks hard. But it's really nice if you guys can just take a split second out of your experience of listening with me and to just give me a rating or a review, on Apple Podcasts. It's not iTunes anymore, is it? It's Apple Podcasts. You can leave me a review. I get the odd review pop up every now and again, which just absolutely fills me with joy, especially when it's just, usually such a lovely review I get. But any platform that you're on, if you can review. And I've also, don't forget you guys, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. I'm trying to get social media is just not really happening with me at the moment, but I'm at Stellium Astro on Instagram and Twitter, and on Facebook I'm Stellium Astrology UK, I think I'm on TikTok too, but it's more about my cats on TikTok than anything at the moment, so we'll see where we go with that. There is also on Instagram, there is a Stellium Astrology podcast page as well. It's not the main page for me. Stellium Astro is the main page for me, but you can follow that too if you like. I'm planning in the future to have content coming out on there as well, so we'll see how we go. Anyway, so last week I had Tania get in touch with me. Let me just pull up her little message that she sent. Let me come out of that. There we are. So Tania got in touch basically to say, okay, the aspects episode was useful, but I find myself lost regarding what planet's affecting the other. So we went into, which planet affects the other planet in aspects. But she said as well, in addition to this, she said, on the same note, how would one read this regarding the houses? So she says, I don't have my chart in front of me, but let's say transiting Venus is in the 11th house, sextiling Neptune in the 1st. Which house is irrelevant for this question? How does the house where the transiting planet is, Venus in this case, play into the effect on or with the house that Neptune's in? So I'm going to try my best to answer this question, and hopefully you'll find it useful. And I made a few little notes, so I'm hopefully it won't be too waffly. But actually, and I can look at Tania's house as well. But let's just say, for example, you've got a planet in the. So I'm going to talk from. I was going to talk from experience. We could say that we'll say. Let's have a look at Tania's chart. It might be easier for me to just look at a chart, for example. Let me call up my astrology. I'm on my iPhone and I'm using, I think it's called Astro Gold. Astro Gold it's called. I think it's about £30 to buy. And it's honestly such a great investment. You don't need to wait for an internet connection. The problem with astro.com is you have to have an internet connection to use it. Okay, so Tania's chart is in front of me now. She said that she'd be happy for us to discuss it on the podcast. And let's have a look. So Tania does have Neptune rising in Scorpio. Let's have a quick look at the current transits. It's a bit past that sextile now. Let's have a look. So actually Tania's got, according to, as long as I've calculated this correctly, and that she does have Scorpio rising with Neptune rising in Scorpio, her so she's got, at the moment she's got Venus. So Venus is turned direct now. Mercury's currently stationing direct. And Mercury's currently stationing direct bang on her moon, actually. Venus is currently sextile the Neptune, sextile the ascendant, and will be sextile Neptune very soon. It's a 4-degree orb on a sextile, generally, unless you like to be a bit generous. So what I would say is that as far as the houses are concerned, it draws both of them in. So and what's interesting about this one is that Venus is in Tania's second house. If we're using the equal house system, Venus is in Tania's second house. So already we know that Venus is a planet that represents values and worth, potentially earning potential, finances. It's kind of like the stuff of wealth, worth, commodities, possessions, accumulation. So it's like personal, I like to call it magnetism, because it's almost like you can draw stuff towards you. So, you know, earning potential, how strong is your, you know, what do you earn? How much do you value yourself and therefore your time? Because earning potential can actually be reflective of your own personal opinion of your own worth. And the second house is kind of a progression from the first house, which is like how we see ourselves, our point of view, our vitality, our health, and our ability to go out into the world and to be who we are. You know, the second house is the progression of, you know, our own personal values. So having Venus already in a house that has a kind of Taurian Venusian flavour, it kind of emphasises that. Now, on the cusp of the second house is Sagittarius, but on, you know, Venus is very much in Capricorn here, so it's 13 Sagittarius by equal on the cusp of the second house, and Venus is sitting there in Capricorn at about 11 degrees. So Venus in Capricorn feels different to Venus in Sagittarius. We would immediately say, you know, Venus in Sagittarius is definitely a bit more fun, freedom loving, probably a bit more independent, and probably quite enjoys, just like not having much in the way of commitments, and being able to go out and do whatever she likes. Whereas in Capricorn, there's a sense of responsibility, there's a valuing of, there's quite a strong sense of integrity in Capricorn, and maybe Venus values not necessarily commitment, but when somebody says they're going to do something, values holding somebody to their word. There's a sense of respect is important in a relationship, and when you don't respect that person anymore, it can actually, the relationship can fade very quickly. So, you know, there's a sense of, with Venus in Capricorn, of wanting to have high personal integrity, self-respect, and probably with Capricorn sitting in the second house, there is wealth is, I'm going to say wealth is kind of important. Capricorn's an ambitious sign, and wanting to, it's about quality. You know, the earth signs are generally about quality. They like to have good quality things. With Virgo, it's more about the quality. It's not necessarily about the expense, but it's about the practicality. With Taurus, probably it's about the way that it feels, and like how luxurious it is, in a sense of like that sensual quality about clothes, for example. Whereas with Capricorn, it can be about appearing, because Capricorn does tend to care what people think. It's about appearances and reputation. So it could be that, you know, this is somebody who, likes to dress to impress, and has, a sense of they are the brand. You know, I am, the things that you wear represent, try and convey a message about how you feel about other people and what you value in others, as in, you know, if you dress in a respectful way, you want to be treated respectfully by other people. It's that kind of adorning yourself in a way that commands a particular reaction from others. And in Capricorn's sense, it's respect me, take me seriously. I value myself. I don't like to mess around with silly, superficial things. I actually care about important stuff. That kind of thing. So this Venus is quite serious. Now, sextiling the ascendant in Scorpio, Venus sextiling the ascendant is, let's say Neptune as well. So we remember that this particular ascendant and has a planet kind of colouring the experience. So Neptune rising gives us quite a nice compassionate flavour. It can create a bit of a disillusionment around self-image. It can also create a sense of wanting to express something a little more otherworldly, rather than necessarily like the harsh reality businesswoman Venus and Capricorn might be. That stylish businesswoman. Maybe she works for Elle. Maybe she works for Elle magazine. Maybe she's the devil that wears Prada. It could be very much that kind of very hard Venus in Capricorn. But when she speaks to Neptune rising in Scorpio, well, already we know Scorpio is a bit of a sexy sign, and Scorpio is also quite happy to enjoys expressing. It's very private and can tend to want to blend in. Now, Capricorn, Saturnian sign, and Scorpio might be wearing very dark, colours. I would imagine Scorpio wearing like very, very like a claret, mahogany kind of. The tone is the colour's escaping me now, but like those very deep reds. Very dark, intense colours. And Capricorn would probably, Saturn wears black or very monochrome maybe, and very smart and very stylish. But with Neptune in there, you've got this like Piscean flair of flowing, like loose garments perhaps, sort of like that make you look like you're billowing, like a mermaid's like fins, for example. Just as like, I'm not saying a day in day out you'd wear this, but just that might be how it impacts the image. And also, it could be that the image is impacted in. When I see Pisceans, often I notice that there is a sort of mermaid quality about them. Usually, there's usually quite long hair, maybe not always trimmed, so that it looks like perfectly freshly cut and styled, because it's like more about the kind of, it's almost quite bohemian looking. So there could be about this person's appearance. They may have that kind of stylish, cutting edge, wanting to look smart and be taken seriously Capricorn. They could also dress very traditionally and have oldish sort of style about them. Like when I say oldish style, like a kind of like more vintage maybe. But with the with Venus in Capricorn sextiling that ascendant with the Neptune involved, there definitely is Venus lends her quality to the ascendant. So she may suddenly tell you, Tanya, because Venus is transiting currently at the moment in Capricorn, that you might want to smarten up a little bit in the second house. Maybe you want to make some serious investments at the moment. Money is going to be a factor for you at the moment, and the things that you are really important to you, you're going to have to learn how to prioritize what you want to, what's worth your investment, your personal investment of your time. So Venus is kind of bringing her Venusian quality and speaking to your ascendant. You may find that you start to value yourself in a new way. Now, I know that you've been going through some difficult stuff, and I know that actually at the moment, oh my God, there's a spider in my car. He just dangled down like, hi, get lost. Right, I'm not going to kill you. You're going to have to go and find somewhere else to hang out, Mr. Spider. Anyway, sorry, Tanya. So yeah, with your chart, I know you're going through some difficult stuff, and actually you are struggling with self-worth at the moment. I know this because you've had an experience, which I won't go into details, with that Scorpio ascendant. I feel like I want to respect your privacy. I know that you're going through an experience which has made you question your own personal worth and made you feel not so great. Like you're kind of revaluing yourself. And actually the experience that you've been through is forcing you to look at your financial situation as well as your your own personal worth, about how you feel about the way that you look. And, the shift in your financial situation has also addressed a need for you to reallocate your finances in a way which they are better put to use, because at the moment you've come from a point where you had more money to spend, and now you have to sort of like really figure out what's the most important stuff for you right now. Me personally, I would always advise that you go out and you spend a little bit of money on making yourself feel good when Venus is in the second house, because the second you start to feel a bit better about yourself, it lifts you. Now, the thing is, I know that you said that because of your situation and the way things happened, you are enjoying taking back your financial independence, which is something that you haven't had for a long time. And that actually, even though you've got less money, you don't care because you are being self-sufficient. And I feel like that's where the Sagittarius on the cusp of the second house is speaking to you, because actually Venus might be in Capricorn, but though she's in your second house and the lord of that second house is Jupiter, and Sagittarius is your the ruler of your second house cusp, the ruling sign anyway, that footloose, fancy-free Venus in that Sagittarius flavoured area of your chart is definitely more about being independent, probably a bit more risk-taking financially, and perhaps you have to sometimes be a bit more risk-taking, especially when things change, your financial situation change. You have to Venus and Capricorn's probably telling you to be a bit more careful, but that second house Sagittarius is also a little bit like, yeah, but you've got to have faith sometimes in where the next penny's coming from. You've got to trust. So Venus is lending that kind of message on priorities, values, and what is really important to you, and speaking to your ascendant, lifting you up. She may be giving you an opportunity to you may find that you do have a little bit extra money somewhere, and I strongly advise that you do take the opportunity to spend it on yourself and make yourself feel good. It's one of those things that you can also look at. So let me go back to my notes quickly. So here are a few of my notes. So there are, with the planets, there are houses that they rule as well. So we're talking about strictly Venus transiting and speaking to your ascendant. But actually, firstly, let's think about the relationship between your ascendant, or between Neptune in your first house and Venus. So Venus and Neptune, whenever they get together, it's very unrealistic, impractical, romantic usually, very creative and poetic and very good at creative stuff, but not very practical. But Venus and Capricorn can bring that practical edge. But actually, in Scorpio, that's a Mars ruled sign traditionally, and Venus is obviously in your second house, which is on the cusp of the second is Jupiter. So we've got like Mars and Jupiter. We can look at where Mars and Jupiter are as well to have a look at how they will influence the conversation between Venus and Neptune. So Mars is currently sitting quite close to Venus in Capricorn, so actually that's an extra serious message, and Mars is very good at controlling its anger and its outbursts in Capricorn. So actually it's a very good at understanding how to best use its energy, and conserves its energy quite well. It can be quite conserving rather than expending unnecessarily. In the second house, there is going to be a focus on possessions and dealing with, the things of value to you, and possibly arguments around those situations as well. Mars, it also rules Aries, so you could look at that if you wanted to. But because we're looking more at transiting Venus, let's have a look. We've got that Mars-Venus principle there, but let's have a look at Venus rules Taurus. So Taurus rules the descendant. And we've also got Libra, which is the 12th house. So there you go. The 12th house has that Neptunian feel again, that Piscean Neptunian feel. Disillusioned a little bit. I think when I spoke to Wade Caves on the, he did a little exploration of the houses, which we really went into depth on the second part, which is available to the BFFs and VIPs on Patreon. But Wade did talk about in that interview about how the 12th house is the house of distortion. So there's no seeing clearly there. So Venus represents to you in your natal chart a sense of there is a kind of 12th house connection with Venus. I can relate to this because I have Taurus in my 12th house. So there can be already a feeling of worth connected to, or a struggle to connect with that sense of self-worth, maybe. There is that sense of you can overlook yourself because you're too compassionately caring for others. And your worth is kind of connected to how good you make other people feel. And because also you've got Venus on the 7th house cusp, relationships are very important to you. Venus is going to be pulling relationships and that kind of disillusionment, that 12th house disillusionment into your kind of experience of Venus sextiling your first. So that without giving out too much away, I think it says it all to anybody listening. Tania is having issues of self-worth through her relationships because Venus rules the 7th. And, there's a sense of disillusionment, a sense of distortion where she's maybe not been seeing clearly, or maybe she's been seeing very clearly. But there's a sense of, that sabotage about that. That's the house of hidden enemies. So there's a real sense of, perhaps something in the relationship perhaps is someone's not being completely honest. They're hiding things, maybe. There's stuff going on that she's aware of, conscious of, but it's not there in front of her to see. Or perhaps it is now, it's revealed itself. But all of this is being communicated through Venus in the 2nd house, and being channeled into the ascendant and that Neptune placement. And ultimately the message is that it's highlighting the 7th and the 12th. It's communicating it into your first, which is bringing it into your personal experience, and is also telling you to look at how much you value yourself. Is this relationship worth your time? Are you being taken seriously enough? Do they possess the integrity that you respect and would expect from the way that you treat others? And, ultimately, is it enticing you to embrace that Sagittarian 2nd house cusp message, which is about, enticing you to have more freedom, being more independent? Why not spend money on new experiences and travel and culture? And maybe, yes, you don't have that money right now, but maybe it's something that will inspire you to work towards it. Now, like I said, 2nd house cusp, the lord of that house is Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is currently in Pisces. He's just working his way through. In your chart, it's on your 4th house. He's in your 4th house. So stuff going on at home. Again, the emotional basement, the psychological basement, some deep learning. It's like trawling the depths of the ocean and seeing what gems we find at the bottom of that ocean while you go through this period of difficulty. And the relationship that is very nice about this is that Jupiter is, yes, the ruler of your 2nd house cusp, but also is he co-rules Pisces. He's a traditional ruler of Pisces, and that Neptune rising in your chart connects that Jupiter placement as well. If that makes sense. Neptune is the ruler, the dispositor of Jupiter, your 2nd house cusp. So I hope that made sense. Anybody listening might be like, whoa, gobbledygook. I will leave Tania's chart, make it available for you to have a look at, so you can see what we were talking about. There's so much to look at in Tania's chart. I know she's got stuff going on. Mercury is retrograde and is on her moon stationing direct as I speak. He turns direct on the 4th of Feb, which is in 2 days, which I think is when the podcast is coming out. There's so much more we could say about this chart. Tania, I know you've been very honest with me. You told me everything that's going on, and wow, you are being hit from every direction, but I love your attitude towards the situation, and I love the fact that you are a fighter. this lady has a Sun-Mars conjunction, people. So thank you, Tania, for letting me have a look at your chart. A little tip for you guys, if you want to do this, is you like what I like to do, particularly when I'm writing horoscopes. So, for example, when I did Jupiter in Pisces, I would go around, I would draw a little circle. You can use a coin or something like that, and just draw the houses which would be affected. So Jupiter ruling Jupiter rules Pisces and Sagittarius. So what I did was I had a look at for each of the signs, when you put the sun sign on the ascendant. So in Tania's case, Scorpio on the ascendant puts Sagittarius on the second house cusp, as we've discussed, and Pisces is actually on the fifth house cusp. Imagine you're using whole sign houses when you're doing something like this. If you colour in the second and the fifth house, then that gives you a good way of looking at which houses are going to be affected by the transiting planet. So Jupiter being in Pisces, you can mark that down and then you can colour it in. I'm probably not describing this very well, but I will leave an example for you to have a look at as well. But I tend to do that. I always sort of like have a little visual aid for myself, and it was really good if you're learning to sort of colour in the houses that are going to be affected by the transit. Maybe if you wanted to do, one planet affects one house, and then the other planet, do different colours. Especially, the other thing you have to remember as well is that some planets have multiple rulerships. So Venus rules all of the personal planets. So Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Venus is Taurus and Libra. Mars is Aries and Scorpio. So you've got that going on. And then you've got Saturn is Aquarius and Capricorn. Jupiter is Pisces and Sagittarius. I think, it's not all of them have two ruling planets, but I'm the kind of person that likes to take into consideration the traditional and the modern ruler. I think it just adds some depth to what you're looking at. You can say, yes, I can see two areas of life that are being pulled together. What could it mean when they come together, these two separate areas of life? And where the transiting planet that rules the houses that are, being pulled together, wherever that transiting planet is, gives you another dimension of how to interpret that aspect. The aspects, now I think Tania actually said to me in here somewhere, she said aspects are probably more of a relationship than one affecting other, but I'm not sure. Am I the only person that doesn't understand this? No, you're not. Other than learning to articulate the aspect, one planet aspecting the other, it can be so hard when you're interpreting. My advice, I've probably told you to do more complicated stuff today, but my advice to you is to keep it simple. So if you really, just look at the transiting planet, what it's aspecting. So like Tania's chart, transiting Venus in Capricorn is aspecting the ascendant with Neptune rising. And so immediately we're going to look at the houses that Venus represents and the message that she's carrying through that. And like I said, Tania's got lots of stuff going on, so not everybody's going to have the same experience if they have transiting Venus sextiling their ascendant from the second house. However, it's worth, just exploring the different houses that Venus rules. Say it was Mars, you'd be looking at, in Tania's case, for example, you'd be looking at the ascendant, and you'd also be looking at the sixth house, because Scorpio is rising and Aries is on the sixth house cusp. Now, for me, Scorpio has two rulers as well, so I do always have a little look again and think, well, Mars is here, but what about Pluto? Let's just have a little look, because obviously Venus is prodding those points and kind of waking those points up and making herself known to them. So you want to have a little look and see what's going on. But when you start out, keep it simple. And obviously when it comes to interpreting aspects, it is hard. It's like learning another language. I found it easier learning other languages. I went to school it used to be a language college, and I studied Latin, French, German, and obviously English. And then I left school and I did Spanish, another GCSE in Spanish. Gemini ascendant here, people. But, I enjoy language. But language is not easy to learn. Well, some people find it easier than others, and some languages are easier to learn than others. But astrology itself, the language of symbolism is a language. But the thing that makes symbolism even harder to interpret is the fact that it is something that one symbol contains so many meanings that the potential for what the symbol represents is so great that, we could spend a podcast episode looking at one planet. We have done. I've looked at the planets and gone into the variety of different meanings. It's almost like symbolism. The planets they have an essence, and every single language, the English language is able to unpick what the symbol means in its own language by assigning objects or things or feelings which can help to unpick the mystery that symbol holds. And when you've got multiple symbols communicating with each other, the conversation that those planets have bring together this sense of a very unique combination that actually is very personal to the individual who is experiencing that transit. So it's so complicated. It's extremely difficult. It takes practice and practice and practice. And the way that I find that you get good, the only way, is by practicing on other people's charts. And also, for me, it was like writing horoscopes. For me, it was writing. It was like trying to look at what was going on. And when I started writing horoscopes for my website, before I wrote for Elle or anyone else, I used to be amazed that I would write a horoscope and look at it and think, I don't think I've done a very good job. And then every single month, people would be getting in touch with me going, you hit the nail on the head with me. And I'm like, how did I do that? Especially with sun signs, when it's not even that specific to somebody's chart. It's just literally looking at sun signs and saying, well, this month, Pluto and Mercury in conjunction, and they happen to be, communicating with Neptune, for example. Coming up with something now in real time, in real life, I'm desperate to talk about this at some point. I might do a whole episode on it. At the moment, in the UK, we've got Boris Johnson, who's been having lots of parties. The Prime Minister's been having loads of parties when everyone's supposed to be in lockdown. And, they've filed this investigation, which has been published now. But Mercury was slowing down and stationing direct in conjunction with Pluto. Now, obviously, there's a lot of secrets there that are, being held really under lock and key with Pluto, this dark underworld of like debauchery. And then, these two planets, so Mercury is the communication planet, Pluto is like the debauched underworld, taboo planet. Them two coming together, you can say that, well, that's secrets, and it's going to be about talking about information around some of this behaviour. And then to sextile Neptune by transit, all of these are transiting. Neptune is that vessel which allows the stuff to leak out of. It's like the barrel with holes in. Suddenly, all of these secrets are just pouring out. And the report's been published now. The secrets have come out. Boris Johnson's been shown to have lied on multiple occasions, barefaced lied about some of the stuff that's been going on in Parliament. Now, I know that there are things going on in Boris's chart that are being picked up by Mercury and Venus retrograde. It's all happening, and it's all highlighting, his personal chart. So basically, what the transiting planets do is they bring themselves into your experience when they highlight something in your natal chart. And when they're aspecting other areas of your chart, each of those points of your chart, the houses that are ruled by those planets, are kind of lighting up in a kind of weird communication. It's a little bit like it's really hard to explain. I'm thinking of, like when you get keyboards that light up when you press the keys, and it shows you how to play a song and the keys light up for you. That almost feels like what the planets are doing with the houses. When they start moving into different signs and different areas of your chart, they instantly highlight other areas for you to explore on a deeper level. So anyway, I've just heard Ewan make a little noise. I think that he is going to wake up soon. And I hope I've made a good explanation for you there, a good episode for you to have a look at, to explore your own charts. Tania, thank you so much for submitting your chart for discussion. And it is complicated. It's very difficult. Practice. I wrote horoscopes because I knew it was going to, basically enrich my understanding of the planets and the aspects and the houses, and help me to develop my vocabulary as far as that's concerned. Not everybody's got time or even the desire to write horoscopes, but I do find that for myself, sitting down and writing helps. Sitting and talking helps. If you've got a recorder on your phone, why don't you look at a chart and just allow yourself to talk around the chart, and then go back and listen and think, oh yeah, that's good. That's a good point. A couple of books that are good as well for aspects. Robert Hand, Planets. I think it's Rob Hand. Planets in Aspects. Planets in Aspect. It's a cookbook, kind of like a dictionary style one where you can look at all of the different ones and combinations. And the other one is Aspects by Sue Tompkins. Those two books I refer to a lot when it comes to aspects. Not so much anymore, but when I was learning. But those two are very, very good books, incredibly good books. He's awake. You've just woken up. Okay, I think on that note, I'm going to say thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Let me know if you've got any questions, and maybe I can do an episode for you. I'm going to put a little form on my website just for you guys to be able to suggest episodes, so that I can check in every now and again when I'm looking for something that I want to talk about. Okay, guys, take care, and I'll speak to you next week. Bye now.